I think Constellars are probably one of the most iconic ZEXAL era archetypes we would have in Duel Links that just do absolutely nothing. Ever since they were first introduced late last year after Sarah arrived at Dark Dimensions World, they've just kind of sat there waiting for new support that would never come, at least not until Xyz Summoning became a thing. And I think out of all the archetypes I've discussed so far, including what I'll discuss in the future, Constellars might just have the highest chance of seeing brand new support very early on into ZEXAL World's life. So for this week's episode of ZEXAL World Archetypes, let's take a look at Constellars New and Old and see just what we might be in store for going into September. Now, we actually already have a large majority of the archetype in Duel Links already, with 14 out of the 26 or so cards in the game that mention Constellars are already available, and all of them are free to play or as end rarity cards in the future horizons. So they are a very cheap archetype, very easy to get. That's quite nice. As an archetype though, they are primarily focused on quickly swarming the field and toolboxing through additional normal summons or special summoning monsters with similar levels and getting surge effects off when normal or special summoned. So let's take a look first of all at the main deck monsters we're missing and see where they kind of fit into the puzzle of Constellars. Constellar Pollux is a level 4 that during the turn he was normal summoned grants you an additional normal summon that turn. Constellar Caius is a level 4 again that up to twice per turn can increase or decrease the level of a Constellar on the field by 1, allowing you to very quickly make rank 3, 4 or 5 Xyz monsters with any combination of original levels on board. However, he can't be used as a synchro material. Constellar Somber is, you guessed it, a level 4 as well, but while it's in the graveyard during the turn it was sent there, you can normal summon one Constellar monster for 1 less tribute, so it makes things like Alresha and Virgo much more palatable. Additionally, you can banish one Constellar from your graveyard to target another in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. And Somber then lets you normal summon one Constellar monster as part of its effect, so some nice graveyard recursion and field swarming. Pretty powerful card if you're kind of later on into your duel. And finally, Constellar Siat is a level 1. There's a free special summon akin to Cyber Dragon, and once per turn can make its level the same as another Constellar on your field and or graveyard, making it the perfect candidate for an opening play going second. Kind of reminds me of that Sylvan Princess Sprout we talked about last week. However, it is locked into only being used for Constellar Xyz monsters, so no generic Utopia, Sun Honor Arcs, or Gaga Cowboys for games. That's just not going to be happening. So I think it's pretty clear just why these cards aren't in Duel Links already. Whilst we do have SR cards such as Algadi, which when it's normal summoned, allows you to special level 4 from your hand, that restriction is the exact reason. The deck right now doesn't have many good level 4 targets to go by, and the same goes for the level 5 and 3s that do similar, but especially in defense mode. Though in the case of those level 5s, they are mainly being hard normal summoned, which you just don't do in the current state of Duel Links. Although I could see Konami being a little bit worried about giving Constellars too much support pre-Xyz, in case they somehow became abused in a synchro strategy. But now, let's transition from the main deck to the extra deck, because here's where things start to get interesting. Constellar Hyades is a rank 3 that requires 2 level 3 light monsters to summon. Already that's kinda restrictive, being it's not an entirely generic Xyz monster, but that's something very common with the archetype in general. It has a decent stat line at 1900, but once per turn you can detach a material from this card to windstorm with attack while your opponent, so not bad, but not overly amazing, given it's just setting you up for the battle phase and not a lot more after that. Constellar Omega is your rank 4 that again requires 2 level 4 light monsters to summon, and once per turn, during either player's turn, so a quick effect, you can detach a material to make all Constellars you control currently unaffected by spell trap cards for the remainder of this turn. Whilst on the surface that doesn't seem all that good as its only effect, remember Xyz monsters are very easily prone to disruption like Floodgate Trap Hole and Paleozoic Canadia. If they get you before you can activate your Xyz monster effects, since most are trigger effects, then you'll have severely wasted 2 or 3 monsters just to end on a weakened board state. So Omega is a way around this issue which might plague early Xyz era decks. Next up, one of the most iconic Constellar monsters, Constellar Pleiades, is your rank 5 in the same vein as Omega and Hyades. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material to target one card on the field and bounce it to the hand. Spot removal as a quick effect is incredibly powerful in Duel Links, especially if you can make this turn 1, which thanks to things such as Chaos and Pollux will be much easier to do than it already currently is. Constellar Praeus, I swear I butchered that name, is another rank 4 but is even harder restricted to just the Constellar archetype rather than just being to lights. Once per turn during the damage step when a Constellar you control is battling, you can detach one Xyz material to give it 1000 attack points to the end phase. So in a way, it's kinda like Witchcraft and Madame Vere, but nowhere near as good. I think Omega, despite the lower attack points, is way better than this, which means no Konami will get Preasp instead. And finally, I have the big boy Xyz monster, Constellar Ptolemy M7, the only generic Xyz monster in the archetype, and a rank 6 one at that. One mechanic you might need to adapt to quickly with ZEXAL World is that a lot of Xyz monsters allow you to use an Xyz you control as a material in order to rank up into one with a higher rank. However, if you do so, this card in particular is effectively a vanilla until next turn because it's unable to activate its effect, and I guess that was kind of an early punishment for being so advanced mechanically so early on. Since then, we've seen things like Cyber Dragon Infinity, which does the exact same thing, but with a very good effect. So what is that effect? Well, once per turn you can detach one Xyz material from this card to bounce one monster on the field, or in another player's graveyard, to the hand. Meaning you can get around things like Bacon Saver or problem graveyard candidates like the White Stone of Ancients, to name a few. The interesting thing in my opinion about M7 is that it promotes being used outside of Constellars, but also promotes the other semi-generic Constellars being used in decks such as Vylons or Worms, two other light-based strategies that don't necessarily have the best or most easy accessible extract lineup, especially in the case of Worms with Worm 0. Other good tech cards that might see play in a Constellar strategy include things like Cyber Dragon or Ghost Ship that can special summon themselves out relatively easily, and make rank 5 Xyz summons into Pleiades much more viable because they are light, level 5s, they're pretty good. But we aren't done there yet though. We have two more support spells to discuss. Constellar Star Chart is a continuous spell card that once per turn when a Constellar Xyz is summoned to your field, you can draw one card. This can be easily abused to give you 2 draws that turn by Xyz summoning Pleiades while its cards on the field, drawing 1. Then use Pleiades' effect to bounce that card back to your hand, reactivate it, then go and use Pleiades as an Xyz material to summon up Ptolemy M7, and then get another draw, potentially giving you access to some more powerful back row, or more resources to Xyz summon on that turn, or your next turn. That's a pretty nifty strategy, and I think it might not be a thing because, really, they're not giving us M7, at least not right now. And our final card for today, Constellar Tempest, again a continuous spell card that during the end phase of your turn, you can target 2 Xyz monsters you control that have material, and remove all their materials to blanket halve your opponent's life points. But that's a hard once per duel effect. However, once per turn your standby phase, you can attach a Constellar monster in your graveyard to a Constellar Xyz you control as a material, so you do get that material back, but you're waiting an entire turn to do so. I think that second effect is way more likely to see play, if at all, since giving yourself a recurring card removal or monster protection can be pretty powerful, but that end phase life point halving nuke seems like too big a risk to me, especially just leaving your Xyz monster potentially defenseless with no disruption in sight. But overall, I think Constellars are still a prime candidate to be one of the first main decks we see get Xyz support in September. I don't foresee us getting Ptolemy M7 anywhere close to release, but again, everything else aside from maybe Chaos is fair game. I could see Konami pulling a synchro again and really trying to control how splashable and how good the mechanic is out the gate, rather than just letting the game and the player base decide that for themselves. Though we do have plenty of level modulation skills available in Duel Links, so that could work out quite nicely, even if we didn't get all the support cards listed here. However, regardless of all that speculation, it shouldn't be too long until we find out for ourselves just how big Xyz summoning is going to be in Duel Links. Anyway, let me know what you think down below of Constellars coming to Duel Links if you'd like to see their support come in ZEXAL World in September. Thanks for watching. I apologise for this video being a bit, probably sounds a bit weird. I've been trying to record this one all day and my voice has just been like, you know what, doesn't want to work, but now for some reason it kind of wants to work a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next Duel Links video. See you then.